Well, I guess thanks for everybody for joining us today. I'm Chris Frostad. I'm the President and CEO of Purepoint Uranium Group. We are a uranium exploration company operating purely out of Saskatchewan, Canada. We have, as you can see here, we've got 10 projects that we're working in the Athabasca Basin. 8 of them are 100% owned, and the other 2 are joint ventures that we have with Cameco and Areva, which has now changed its name to Orano. And we just finished up our winter drill program up there. I thought I'd start with a little bit of information with regards to what we're seeing in the uranium industry right now. I think if anybody here is interested in uranium, they probably know a lot of this information, but we've been ever since Fukushima hit Japan, or went up in Japan, the price of uranium has been languishing somewhat, and to the point where at this point what you see here is the spot price of uranium in red. What you see in green is the marginal cost of production. So right now the price of uranium is below what it's costing to produce. And it's been that way for some time now, which has caused the industry a fair amount of grief. 2 things that have been holding that price down. One is excess inventory. When Japan shut down all of its reactors, it turned off about 10% of the demand worldwide. The other thing that we've seen happening is even since that time, Kazakhstan has been flooding the spot market over the last 6-7 years, creating a fairly significant overhang in terms of inventory. And here you see what has happened since that point in time when Japan shut off its reactors. What you're seeing there is global uranium production, and the red line represents everything. What is in blue, between blue and red, is what Kazakhstan's been producing. So in fact, Kazakhstan, even though demand dropped significantly, we saw them continuing to put a lot of product into the market, and it's really been holding down the price till now. On the supply side, or on the power generation side, the demand side, though, we're seeing a bit of a different story. What a lot of people don't realize is that, in fact, as of the end of last year, globally, we're now generating more nuclear power globally than we did prior to Fukushima. So what that means is there have been more new reactors coming online over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And despite the fact that Japan has not turned on all of its reactors yet, we've still seeing that demand side picking up significantly. So the red line represents what we see currently under construction and set to be turned on over the next few years. The blue line represents what happens if Japan gets turned back on or they turn on the rest of the reactors. I think a lot of investors have been waiting to, or watching the Japan reactors, watching to see when they come online as kind of that bellwether as to when we expect to see uranium prices coming back up. But in fact, it's not really the case. I think it's a bit of a red herring. What we know is that demand is back where it was. Japan's reactor shutdowns were, in fact, a part of the problem, but they're not necessarily reflecting the solution. What's happened this year, we're seeing a lot of things changing. A lot of the producers, the supply side of the equation has been putting a lot of efforts into turning that price around, because obviously this industry can't continue to sell uranium for less than it costs to produce. So we've seen a number of major reductions in production. Kazakhstan has announced a reduction at the beginning of this year. Cameco has shut down a couple of major mines in recent times. In fact, between the 2, they have reduced the supply of production by about 20% this year. We're also seeing a reduction in that inventory. Right now, about 75% of the spot inventory is those transactions are being conducted by producers, not utilities, which means that the producers are buying uranium on the spot market because it's cheaper than producing it themselves. So they're buying that product to fulfill their contracts moving forward. So they're soaking up as much of that excess inventory as they can. A couple other things that are bringing pressure to the uranium price. There's a Section 232 petition filing in the United States, which is really pressure on the United States to really to support more uranium production from those producers in the United States, because right now the United States imports about 80 to 90 to more than 90% of their uranium fuel, and they currently sit on about 25% of the world's reactors. Russia has announced, or they're threatening with sanctions to stop providing uranium to the United States in response to U.S. sanctions the other way. So these are things that are all bringing pressure to that supply side. And as well, Kazakhstan is going to be changing the way that they're marketing their uranium moving forward. And so all of these things, we hope, will see a movement in the uranium prices. Again, on the demand side, we've seen an increase in reactor demand. We've seen the nuclear generation improving, and we do expect to start seeing those Japanese restarts happen. There was recently a resignation, a government resignation of the individual who's really been advocating against turning on a lot of these reactors. And the feeling in the last month is that we may start to see that picking up. So all of these coming together, interestingly enough, this year in particular, we're looking to see, hopefully, a bit of a turnaround in uranium supply. What has been interesting is in the last 6 months, we haven't seen any significant long-term contracts signed. So we're looking at uranium, long-term contract price of $30, but really that's based on a 4, 5, 6 month old price. Nobody wants to blink. Nobody wants to be the first one to sign that contract at a higher price. So we'll see how this unfolds over the next little while, but certainly from our perspective, we hope to see a bit of a slingshot occur. When it comes to Purepoint, we've been operating in the basin for well over a decade now. We have, as I mentioned, 10 projects. You see them here outlined in orange. A lot of our more advanced projects were actually out on the eastern side of the basin, where we've done a fair amount of work. But right now our priority is down at Hook Lake. It's our project in the Patterson Uranium District that adjoins Fission and NextGen and the discoveries that they've been making down there. The Hook Lake project is, as I mentioned, a joint venture with Cameco and Orano. We own 21%. They split the rest of it between the two of them, and we're the operator. And during this time of low uranium prices, when it's been very difficult to raise money in these markets and to advance some of these projects, we've been very fortunate with these relationships. This particular project has been showing significant promise. We've made a number of discoveries. There's a lot of action going on next door with their neighbors, and this is a significant project for both Cameco and Orano, and they've been funding it heavily. So this year we just completed a $4 million program, drill program. Last year it was a $5 million program. The way the math works for us, we're the operator, so we have to come up with our 21% of that $4 million. That's $840,000. We get a 10% management fee because we operate. So in fact, it only cost me $440,000 to work on a $4 million program. And that provides us with relevance and news and experience, keeps everybody moving along, and it keeps us in a very good place during a time when there's not a lot of us left. I think uranium exploration companies are becoming a bit of an endangered species, and I'm kind of happy to say that we're one of the few men standing. The program we just completed, again, is in the Patterson District. You'll see in this map here, to the south, the star to the south is Fission's RRR deposit. It's about 140, 150 million pounds. Just to the north of that, you see NextGen's Arrow deposit. It's coming in at about 300 million pounds right now. As you move further north, right on the border, that is our Spitfire deposit, which unfortunately we share with NextGen because it just lapses over the claim line a little bit, but we've been doing a fair amount of work on that deposit, if nothing else, to really understand the setting, because what we do know now is that this trend and this shear that rides up between those green lines is very significant, and we're seeing mineralization and similar settings all the way along it. A lot of our focus this year was further to the north, up in what we're calling the Dragon Zone. And this gets a little bit closer. You can see that area. To the south, again, you see we start with Fission and moving up. The distance between Fission's RRR deposit and our Spitfire deposit is 14 kilometers. We've got another 8 kilometers that goes through our property, about 5 kilometers up to Dragon. What we did see this year at Dragon was we started to recognize all of the similar and identical settings that we were seeing at Spitfire, only it's significantly bigger. So what you see there, that dotted pink line, is actually a new mineralized shear that we've identified this year through drilling that joins Spitfire up to the Dragon, and there's been very little testing done there to date. So that will be our focus, and Cameco and Reva's focus as we move forward is really moving that along. As I run out of time here, this is, I'm going to mention out of the gate, we're about two booths down here. So if you want to get more detail on any of this information, we'd be more than happy to show you how all of this stuff fits together. We're here all week. This again is our Spitfire deposit, and I'm going to zip through this stuff. I want to close with this. This is really our portfolio or our pipeline of projects. We've been operating up there for some time, and we've spent considerable time and effort in developing a full pipeline of projects, right from greenfield up through a number of our mid-tier projects here, where we've had great discoveries and great showings to date, right up to our Hook Lake project, where we're really looking forward to getting back out there and as are our partners. We seem to move. This is our chart right now. We have lots of money in the bank. We have about $1.5 million in the bank. As we're waiting for uranium prices to come back, the one thing I can say about Purepoint is we've been here for a long time. We've got adequate funds in the bank to last us for a few more years easily. The only money we raise tends to be flow through wherever we need it to support our efforts at Hook Lake. Other than that, we're keeping our powder dry, and we're looking forward to things really recovering in the coming year from a uranium price standpoint. And I think we're going to maximize that opportunity. So again, we're just in the booth down the hall here. By all means, drop by, and we can show you lots more. Thank you very much.